So this is the video submission which is submitted by three of us for the Python lab video submission, and where we will be going to the entire session and learning about the problem, how and what is the solution approach, what will be the implementation. So the first thing is understanding the problem. Here if you see the problem given to us is where we have been given a list of integers and we need to find such two elements those sum is closest to 0. So here these list of elements can either be positive and negative. So in your list, when you see, if you see the examples, they have been given as -4, 7, 6, 2 and -5. So it's a combination of negative and positive integers. So we need to find the two elements or sum is closest to how sum is closest to the 0. So for example, if I'm gonna take -4 and if I compare it with other elements, say -4 plus 7, the sum is 3. 3 minus 4, then the 6 is the sum is 2. So when you compare to, the closest is -4 plus 6. So but that's not closest to 0, but we need to find other elements as well. So when you do step by step the sample output, you will get the pair of -5 and 6, because the sum is 1, which is closest to 0. In that particular list we need to find the same for as well, which will be given inputted by the user. So we need to ensure that that the sum, we need to find that pair. If you can see the hints, the absolute distance of the sum from 0 should be considered to find the sum closest to 0, right? So for example, if I have something which is 1 and something which is 2, then 1 is the closest now. So let's go for the method 1, one of our approach, which is very simple. First we need to we need to find the sum of each and every element with every other element in the list, and we will then store it in the dictionary. So what will happen is we will return the minimum sum element from the keys in a sorted tuple. So for our pseudocode, let's understand, we will be providing a the function like define closest to 0 with the and with the parameter in this list. Then we will create an empty dictionary which will be later used to store keys and elements and values as sum 0. So we will check the list validation. If the length is greater than 2, because it is greater than 2, then there is no use of getting the sum, because at least 2 or more elements are required to get the sum. Then we will initialize 2 loops until the list last elements or length and calculate the sum of each iteration. So in this way we will calculate the sum of each and every element with each other, and we will need to find this sum, calculated sum and absolute sum. So we will store that in an empty dictionary, and then we will apply the sort all dictionary items. Once we get the sum, we will store all it is, we will sort it and stored in the dictionary with this minimum sum value. So the first key which we will have, it will be having the closest to 0 sum, and then will be the output. So the time complexity of this program is 0 and the square is auxiliary space is 0. So our method 2 is basically using the quicksort algorithm, which is the sorting algorithm. So our algorithm or pseudocode will be first to sort all elements of the input, which is our input list, using the quicksort algorithm, and then we will be using the 2 index variables alpha left and r for right to towers from left and right ends respectively. This way we will ensure that new element is missed. Then we will initialize this 0 and the result right obviously as n-1, which will be the last element, where n is the input number of this, which I mean is like the length of the input list. So first will be like the sums will be input list of L minus input list of R, so that we will be able to get the initial sum, and if the sum is negative, then we will need to do the length plus, and then if our sum is actually positive, then R will be the minusing 1 or 1 by 1 R. So we also need to ensure that we are keeping a track of the absolute minimum sum as well. And why we do all these things, after that we will be repeating the steps R3, 4, 5 and 6 while ensuring that our length left is less than or right the time complexity is completely to sort plus complexity of finding the optimum pair, which is 0 n log n plus o n is equal to o n of log n, and auxiliary space is now let's go to the programming, which is the Python implementation. So if we see first, we will be defining the function which is closest to 0, and then we are defining an empty dictionary So we need to first ensure that a list have at least 2 elements. So we are saying that if a list is less than 2 elements, then please print invalid input return, that is an invalid input. So ensuring that we have a proper list to get the sample. And then next is like initialization of loops to calculate the sum. So our first loop will be for I in range of length minus 1, for j in range of I plus l and ln panel. So we need to ensure that all values in the empty dictionary, once we have the sum, given the sum, we'll be adding those in the dictionary, followed by the keys and the sum. So that it's a code of for adding that to our dictionary to add the sum, because as we saw our pseudocode, once we add the sum corresponding to its keys, we will be sorting it out, and its smallest or the first L key will be returned, and return it with the precision of 00. So this is a code of our first coding. So the data structured here, our this dictionary and tuples. And if you see your text cases, we have given the test cases of input and output, and if you see, they have been properly passed and they have been properly used, so that the all for our Python implementation coding, which is the method 1 and method 2. If you go, which is our sorting, as I mentioned before, if you see, so for the first one is we need our array to be sorted. We are using start as an index and then the ending index. So the first where we are using is defining a quick start, and then we are ensuring that our elements are sorted properly using quick start. Since we are using a quick start, then if you are seeing, we are going to use the R function, we are going to use a define function, so that we can get the minimum sum of pairs. So our end will be the list of length of the list. We are going to keep our sum as 0, and then we will be presiding towards our entire coding. So on left, as we discussed, we will be the 0th index, and our right will be the length minus 1, which is n minus 1 index, and our minimum left should be 1, and a minimum if right will be minus 1. So our length, again we are checking, the length of the list is less than 2, then there is no use, because then we will return as invalid input, because we need more than 2 elements to get the sum. Then we are going to scroll out the function, which is the quicksort. We are going to input the list. We are gonna check on these things, like we are able to sort it first and then get the input functions, and then we are going to check on this, actually sort my list accordingly, and then we will utilize this volume functionality till the time left index. Actually we will keep the assigning some values with the this plus that's index, or these are the elements actually from which one, from left and right. And then we keep comparing, if absolute sum 1 less than absolute minimum sum, then we will actually minimums are equal to someone, and minimum left equal to left, and we even right equal to right. So these are the values we are assigning. So as we discussed, that if sum less than 0, then we will increment left equal to left plus 1, as we actually decrease the right, actually right equal to right minus 1, and then we will return all the values, and it will return the list where list u and will write. So these 2 elements will be the final output. So here you can see we have the sorting methods, and we are the input what we have, and the output, and how the output should be working out. So the method using sorting input and output, and we have the conclusions, like both methods are working fine, output is matching as expected. There are other ways we can solve the problem, and also this will help us to understand more about this recording. It's mentioned, like this link will be here, and thanks for watching this video and supporting us.